Thanks everyone. Yeah, thanks for all those who are here today. Just want to mention where you're from as well would be great. The location, either the country or the city that you're from. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. Good to see you all here. We are just out of the lockdown. I finally got into gym today, but have been using technology very much so. Wei Jing in California, good. I remember meeting you over in Silicon Valley, sitting in your Tesla as you dropped me in the Google office. We had a good catch up together at Starbucks. Victoria from Germany. Hi, Irene from Malaysia. Thank you for coming. Just for you, you may have come in here because blockchain and the Bible is something that you're interested in, and I hope I won't disappoint. I will attempt to explain to you what blockchain means, but also talk about emerging technology and areas like virtual reality, cryptocurrency, the Internet of Things, and obviously to pack it in 20 minutes is a big task, but I will do what I can, and we can always follow up after that. Hi, Alex from Hong Kong. Great. We met in Manila, and we had brunch before in Hong Kong. Hope you're doing well. Jake from Philippines, so good to see you. I'm just going to begin right now. I think we've got quite a number of people who are in already. I'm just going to start with a very quick icebreaker, and I'm going to be very interactive. What percentage of the world do you think is connected to the internet today in 2020? Just put down the percentage that you feel is connected to the internet today. All countries in the world, about 200 plus countries. What percentage do you think is connected to the internet? So I see a mix between 80 to 60%. We have about 7.8 billion human beings today on planet Earth, and there are actually countries that are still connected, not connected. We don't know yet. But based on what I know, thanks for sharing. I see some 60%, 40%, or 70%. Based on Statistica, we actually have 59%. So I think someone was the closest. Very good. Out of that, 4.57 billion people were active internet users as of July, and I probably picked up during the pandemic as well. And what do you think then would be the percentage of the world that will be connected in 2030? So I'm seeing now 59% now. I think actually, you know what? Maybe in November this year, it would have been 80%. July being 59%. So some of you saying 80% could be true. But what do you think in 10 years' time would the percentage of the world be in terms of connected to the internet? Just shoot out a number right now. What do you think that number would be in 10 years' time? How many people would be connected to the internet? 89%, 75%. So some say that not much changes. Some say many. Just a question. Please feel free to interact on the chat. I would appreciate that. 99%. Yep. Someone, Alex, 90%. Okay, Nicholas says 90%. Well, you see with the advent of 5G. And what I know as well is that they currently, right now, with the 59% connected, 91% of them use mobile phones. And mobile phones are everywhere. It's easy to get connected. You know what? There isn't a prediction for 2030, but my hope is that actually 99% would get there, or at least 99.9% because of the speed of growth. There's a law called Moore's Law and the doubling of the capacity of processing speed. And I do believe that this is going to be a very important time for the world, and all the more important time for us in understanding our faith and the precedence of technology. Well, we live in a world right now where there's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It's known as the VUCA climate, especially with the pandemic, right? And I want to ask you now, how much do you think you know about emerging technology, or maybe blockchain in particular? So out of 0 being like, I don't have a clue, to 10, and I actually know quite a bit. I've actually talked and taught someone about blockchain. Can you just put it down right now? Whether you're 10 being you understand blockchain, or 0 you don't know an emerging technology in general. Yep. Okay. So I see a 2, 9, 1. So I've got to see a good mix of both sides, right? In terms of how you all understand blockchain. Okay, I'm 3, 1. So, okay, you know what? I'm going to give you an example that will be really simple. Okay, so those who really understand it, you can use that example and hope that it would strengthen your understanding. But it's a mix of still really new to it. Let me just tell you specifically about blockchain first. So a bit about my background. I was very fortunate to be in the blockchain industry from 2017 to now. I went up a career trajectory from an executive to the vice president of my company. And at the same time, I traveled to over 30 cities across the world talking and promoting blockchain. So I should know this, right? And in fact, it's now blockchain is so much more important to so many people that if you look at the slide, there's a Forbes magazine has this Forbes 50 blockchain, and you may recognize some of these logos here. All these companies have spent considerable amount in blockchain technology, and that means it's very, very important. So as all of us now being sort of an enthusiast in understanding faith and technology, I think it's important that you know what blockchain and technology is in general, because all these big companies are using it. Some of you may remember when Facebook bought WhatsApp or when Google bought YouTube, said what they bought it for billions of dollars. That sounds so expensive, but today we say, well, that was a good buy because of the kind of how we're so used to it. And now these big companies are using it, and so we see the importance in knowing about it. So I'm going to try to explain to you blockchain from a high school kid concept. Okay, so Tim Cobb from Mind Over Machines, a company, has this good example. He says, imagine there's a school lunch table with a bunch of kids sitting, and two kids says, I want to trade lunch. Okay, and kid A says to kid B, I'll trade a cookie for a sandwich. Okay, so all right, interesting. You want to trade that? Sure. So as the two kids trade the cookie for a sandwich, the principal comes over and asks, oh, what's going on here? And at which all the kids, as you can see in the slide above, said, oh, kid A just traded lunch with kid B for a cookie and a sandwich. So what's this story about? It's actually the basis of the basics of blockchain. So the lunch, as you would say, is an asset, yes, and trading the lunch between kid A and kid B is a transaction. Okay, and finally, the principal is a bit like the reviewer to approve or validate the transfer of asset. And what all the kids say that, oh, kid A traded with kid B, they are the people who are validating the transaction by consensus. So consensus means all the kids says, yes, that transaction had happened. So what blockchain means is that all the kids, when they recorded saying, oh, yes, the kid traded, everyone sees it and tells and validates that the trade has happened. So blockchain is a bit like a digital trail, or you say digital breadcrumbs or cookie crumbs, where everything that is being recorded, everything that's being transacted is recorded on a block by block by block on internet servers, and they're all chained up together. So that means that you don't have one person holding all the information and just keeping it, but actually everyone sees it, like all the kids in the school grounds. Let me explain it further. I'm going to tie it to the Bible since this is a FaithTech Summit. In Moses, when he recorded the 10 Commandments, I'm pretty sure it wasn't in English, but that's just for you to refresh yourself on the 10 Commandments. When he inscribed and chipped everything on the block, right? There were a few witnesses that saw it, and they were all writing that down, and they were probably duplicating the 10 Commandments if they could back then when they were using rocks. But it was until the Gutenberg era when the 10 Commandments, which later parts of the story became the Bible, and they all started replicating the Bible, and it was then spread across the world. And what the Bible is in a form of record keeping that had been shared across the world. Now, the only way to authentify whether the Bible is real or not is when people verified it. So all the Bible transcripts and everything, there were thousands of people that verified it, and it became to where it is today. So the same way for blockchain, you need many people to verify it, and this is what you call nodes. So nodes of people to verify that the transaction had occurred. Now, you may ask, like, why is it so important for information to be verified? Well, because there's now a lot of hacking, a lot of manipulation of data, and people are trying to misinform information that's being shared. So when information is on a blockchain, remember all the school kids saying that, oh, that transaction had happened? We can all see all changes that has been made. So that's a bit of the little story of blockchain. In fact, record keeping is very much part of the Bible. In Matthew 1, chapter 1 to 17, some of you may know it was the genealogy of Jesus across 42 generations, chain by chain by chain, from Abraham to Jesus. This is an act of record keeping across generations, verified by multiple historians to ensure that the information has integrity, trustworthiness, and connecting the chain of lineage that draws the parallel ingredients to actually what a blockchain means, right? Another example is blockchain as a superhighway. So imagine a highway that all the cars can go on top, and the cars that go on top is the different assets like the cookies or the sandwiches and so on. And one example that's really popular right now is cryptocurrency, or some of you may know it as Bitcoin. It is a form of asset that is on a blockchain that is being recorded. And so that people are now buying and selling Bitcoin because everyone has nodes that are recording the transactions on the blockchain. Now, this has gone from Bitcoin all the way to temperature for a supply chain of a shipping line. That's how blockchain is being used, all the way to payments for banks. Even central banks are exploring how blockchain is being used. And it can be even used for even churches as well. So let me get a bit into it right now. KPMG research has been so bold to say that 95% of reduction in errors could have happened with blockchain technology, increasing efficiency, improving customer experience, and reducing capital consumption. In fact, IBM had spent more than $200 million building blockchain capabilities and teams. All the large accounting consulting firms have some form of blockchain practice. So that just shows how important blockchain is right now. And again, you can see it's how actually connected to the Bible through I mentioned about how, the Bible had been verified by multiple historians. Same way, blockchain has to be verified by multiple nodes before it can go through. Now, I actually did a full episode on this. If you just Google blockchain and the Bible at allthingsnew.tech with Paul Taylor, he's the teaching pastor at Palo Alto in the Silicon Valley. You can hear it's a 40-minute podcast, but I won't share since we don't have much time. But that explains more about how blockchain works and what you can learn about it. So you can just note that down. It's episode 10, or you just Google blockchain and the Bible. And I hope that helps. All right. I want to now talk about how this is so important in terms of the preservation of truth. Because when we understand how blockchain is, it's actually a very Christian thing. It promotes transparency, integrity. It promotes trust as well in the information that is shared. So that means that everything that is being done cannot be deleted, can only be edited or updated. So you won't have anyone that's trying to change information that will actually impact a lot of the cybersecurity breaches that we see. So that really shows that we are preserving the truth. Now, I want to talk a bit about the applications of blockchain. Cryptocurrency, say, can I actually give a Bitcoin for my church? Is it legitimate and so on? Now, let me tell you, it is so, because there are now quite a large number of countries in the US, Australia, a majority in Asia have been spending some time creating guidelines on how you can actually use cryptocurrency and actually tax it. And the church has actually picked up on it. There's an organization called Untitled. They've actually enabled for churches to receive cryptocurrency as a form of giving. So there are people that are actually owning cryptocurrency. In fact, there are more than 350 billion US dollars worth of Bitcoin right now in circulation. It means someone had actually paid to buy these Bitcoins and hold, and actually that allows them to give Bitcoins as well. So that's one application of how emerging technologies can be used. And when you transfer cryptocurrency, it's actually not anonymous, but pseudonymous. That means that you can transfer it without needing a lot of information that is being shared, without a middleman, as they call it. And it's also really cheap and fast to do so. So that's one example. Application of churches can use that. The other thing that I want to quickly jump through is the Internet of Things. Now, what does the Internet of Things means? It actually means the idea of data being used in a very intelligent and smart way. Now, most of you will know right now, as a physical-only church, right, that church can't really survive. There are now going to be two types of churches. You can be a digital-only church, or you could be a physical church with a digital presence, right? It's a bit of a bi-model approach. And now this is a time where churches can understand how to use different ways of using digital and physical at the same time. So with Internet of Things, an example here would be, imagine your smart home, where with an app, you can control the air conditioning of your home, or you can open the automatic gate, or talk to your door to open it. The same way for a church as well. It actually helps with identifying, for example, how many people had attended your church through facial recognition, or to also use security to ensure who enters your church and whether there are security measures. So that's all the use of how IoT can be used as a smart home, so much so as in this area of the Internet of Things as well. The other area is using software. So if you're a leader in faith and technology, there's some recommendations that are quickly run by using church websites, YouTube, social media involvement, church management software, using online giving or computerized check-in for kids as well, or having digital projections of things. Also, if talking about online giving, for churches that didn't have online giving facilities in the last 6 to 8 months during the pandemic, they all have been impacted quite greatly. So same way, embracing digital actually is not an option. It is a must. And it's the same way that we should all use technology, just as when the Bible came in and the printing press came out, the Gutenberg printing press, and that was the biggest boom in history of the world knowing the Bible. Same way right now, there's actually no greater time when there's so much information on the internet with sermons of churches going online on YouTube especially, and that's when we can see more people knowing Christ through this. Now, when Internet of Things happens, you don't just connect church, but you connect your car. And for example, knowing how many cars can come into a car park for a church, and knowing whether you would know, have you entered a church where it's too warm and it's too cold? Having Internet of Things will help you understand how your church could also function and operate. And from even now, when we see entering Zoom online, you will also be able to monitor how engaged your listeners are. So there are so many ways that people do it right now, just by observing and recording the voice, and those that are on video, whether they're concentrating or not. Emerging technology has a lot to do with it. Now, the other area is in the area of artificial intelligence, and that really is, I know there are quite a number of experts here, but in really simple way, artificial intelligence allows us to have human intelligence in the form of a machine. But to really keep it very simple to all of you who are here, it's actually allowing us to scale greatly. For example, we're so used to one-on-one pastoral care, but can you now imagine having the ability to go 1 to millions, but not just 1 to millions, but one-on-one 1 million different times through the internet, or 1 to a few people 1 million different times as well. And that's what artificial intelligence can do in terms of intelligently processing the information, and also knowing who to send the right information to as well, being very smart about how things are being done. So that's a bit about artificial intelligence. Now, the other areas in virtual reality, some of you may know of the products, the Oculus Rift or the HTC Vive. There is actually a VR church. If you go to vrchurch.org, there's a team that is an example of a completely digital church. And that's where they are reaching out to people who may otherwise not go to a physical location at all, and to actually access church through their virtual lenses. And there's even applications where you can go on a live online cell group or small group and actually interact with people over there. And it's actually reaching, in a way, an unreached people group. People who spend a lot of time on virtual reality, and they would come in there and experience God and actually find fellowship as well. So what we're seeing right now is different forms of emerging technologies that are transforming the world. And if you go back to the question, if 59% of the world now has internet, and you see potentially 99 to 100% in the next 10 years, how can we use technology for the Lord? And maybe if you want to type on the chat, like, where are you using the most technology right now? If it's Zoom or YouTube or WhatsApp, just type in there what it would look like. It will go there. Yeah, and I got requests for the URLs for later reference. Sure, I'll be able to send the slides and for you to look into it as well. But I just want to end with Colossians chapter 4, verse 5 to 6. It says that, be wise in the way you act towards outsiders. Make the most out of every opportunity. And the word every opportunity actually means the use of technology as well. Right now, I can speak to you out of Melbourne. I don't need to be on a plane to speak in a summit, and let your conversation be full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you know how to answer everyone. So I guess the question right now is that this is a time where you can ask questions. Maybe you can ask back about blockchain or emerging technology. And I want to just spend some time actually addressing any of your questions. But the future of church right now is more than that. We've seen mega churches, multi-site churches, and now we're even looking at micro churches, like small groups coming in again to where we are. And we also see now that churches, sometimes we may not even care how the church looks like. For example, some of you may not even know where your food comes from when you order from your Uber Eats or food delivery, or where the stores are physically when you order from Amazon or eBay or an online store in your location. We don't know what the physical location looks like, and we interact on digital. So now everything is moving to your home, including church as well. And that's how if we use emerging technology wisely, that becomes a key factor. All right. So I'm going to just end with the questions that you may want to answer here. This is a bit of a reflective thought. So from a church impact itself, where do you see emerging technology moving in the future based on your Christian faith? And what could its impact be on people, culture, church, and life? So if you're not just answer that question there, or you have a further question, just post it on the chat. And from a world impact perspective, what do you think is the future of emerging technology, and how do you envision it being deployed to make a positive impact? And finally, what's your vision for a world where technology is used to build the kingdom of God? So if you'd like to answer that question, please put it there. We've got about 5 minutes left before our session ends. So if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat right now. Or if you want to answer the question over here, that'll be great. So there's Nicholas made a comment about how augmented reality could encourage more in people interaction. That's right. Augmented reality is the area where you are actually having like a digital item or person that represents you on the internet, where you'll be able to interact. And some people actually share a lot of their personal thoughts there because they can speak in a way anonymously as well. Another one, Joshua mentioned about how you would be paired with smart glasses. Yes, that's right. So imagine your glasses, you could actually view church and see your Bible verses on your glasses itself. That's a good example of how this could look like. Now, I want to maybe share something a bit more philosophical. Feel free to continue putting in your chat over here. Now, this is a picture, a very famous picture in the blockchain industry by Paul Barron, about how he sees technology in the future. It's moving from centralized, like a single source of facts, to decentralized, where there are multiple sources, and then distributed, where churches or organizations are interconnected together. Now, that's where I feel we are moving towards distributed, where information is shared freely and available amongst each other. And they're moving into this. And just answering some questions, since we've been running out of time now. What list of blockchain-related development are there in Faith? Well, there are actually many kinds that are being tried. I know there's a one called Christ Coin. They're trying to encourage people to read, do Christian activities, read the Bible, and they'll be awarded with like digital currencies. And there are people that are working on blockchain projects about giving in the mission field as well. That's related to Christian ministry. But I actually know Christians who are in the blockchain industry who are doing really important things like supply chain, payment systems, looking into having good records that are being flowed through. Another question is, how do you think Starlink or Elon Musk might impact the internet? Well, I think it's going to explode even further. What is being done is to, in a way, enhance more internet connectivity and speed, and that gives us more urgency to be able to connect with people and to actually ensure that we are saying the right things and representing the right voice as well as Christians. In other words, how do you encourage your ministry to consider emerging tech? That's on Victoria's. How do you encourage your ministry? I would say that right now it's important that actually every church considers having a bit of an online pastor or a digital pastor, a pastor who's trained to actually pray for someone or interact with them online, because it's actually a new culture, a new habit, and a new way of doing things. And not many pastors actually understand that. And even for us as well, like besides physical volunteering, like welcoming people at church or worship leading and singing on stage, there's also digital volunteering. How can you volunteer in an online way? And there are many different ways to do it. So I encourage you to Google. There are many things. You could call it a digital mission trip as well. That's one way to look at it. It's a question here. Interesting thought. The church can be distributed physically, but spiritually, it has to be decentralized. Yes, and you know what? God can move in this world as He can in the internet as well. The biblical theology may not envision distributed as a church structure, but more as evangelism. I wonder people misunderstand it as church structure. So the question on whether distributed could be a way of how a church structure would look like. This could fall into different things. For example, centralized would look like evangelism in a big stadium. Decentralized could be like multiple evangelists going to your different groups. Distributed could be the use of technology, where you would be sharing information with each other on evangelism or connecting people to each other through a network of groups. So there are a lot of very different elements to doing it. But emerging technology is still new, but I say that as Christians, we should know it, because the big companies are using it, more people are using the internet, and the church may not be seen using emerging technology yet, but we cannot afford to be ignorant for it. So that's my session for today. I hope you all found it insightful, and feel free to connect with me on social media and so on. We can connect after. Just search me at just search Jason Lee, and I'm known for my work with NEM, NEM. So Jason Lee NEM on LinkedIn, or just Google me. There'll be some more information on that. So I hope that was helpful, and I think we'll move on to the next part right now, which is networking. So maybe Hannah, pass the time back to you.
Thanks, Jason, for your very insightful sharing. So that's the end for our sessions, and now the next stop is at networking, so you can get to meet other people and just share about your insights from the sessions. I'm sure you also want to hear what other people have to say the other sessions. So let's move to the networking tab. See you guys there.